I was scared to look in the mirror of what I would find, because sometimes it doesn't lead to great places, or things that it's like, am I really willing to go there? Because in 2018, Seth asked me point blank, he's like, are you sick of the business? Are you sick of Baltimore? Are you sick of the marriage? And my answer was yes. I had put all of it on the table because I was so crispy. I was so burnt. I was so exhausted.
It's usually about the kid. It's rarely about the parent. It's like, you're supposed to be, the best always. You're always supposed to have your shit figured out, no matter how old you are. But I really like that frame of like 25-year-old Alyce is different than 45-year-old Alyce, and therefore you're getting a different experience because you're getting a different version of me. But I'm doing my best that I know how to do at 25. I'm doing the best I know how to do at 45. So it's a really beautiful response. And listener, I hope you caught that, because ultimately we're continuing to evolve as humans, and we're all having a human experience. And as we're continuing to evolve, we're going to bring our best to what's present to us in this moment. So with that also being said, that's why the youngest is probably the best, because we're getting the best version of you. No, I'm just kidding.
You would agree. 100% you would agree.
Andrew's a middle child, so he's screwed.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you're the
Stuck
fun
between
one.
the two
Middles are the
worlds.
fun ones. They're the party ones.
We're trouble. We're trouble for sure. I want to hit on a couple more things. I know we joked about going for 3 days. I think we probably could, Alyce, but you're a busy woman. We want to let you go at some point here today. One other thing that I really was kind of touched me was some of your catchphrases and things that you like to say, was the idea of being busy so you don't have to feel. I would love to hear you kind of talk about that a little bit. I think that's very common for a lot of people in general, listeners to this podcast, but again, especially to the moms out there. And then, you'd be willing to die for your child, but would you be willing to fully live for your child as well? Could you speak to those two things real quick and help the listener really understand what that means?
Yeah. So busy is a way that we behave so we don't have to feel, is what I write about. And in 2018, after building a really successful real estate business, on the outside, we had everything you could imagine. We had a nice house and cars and vacations and all the things, like no reason to ever complain about anything. And yet inside, I was just feeling so empty and so just down, probably depressed, just, and I felt trapped. I felt like the business that I built to help make us free was actually a noose, is what it felt like. And I realized the busier I became in business, the more I actually got rewarded for it. And I'm like, well, that's a trap. But we don't see busy as a drug. We don't put it on the same plane as alcoholism or shopping or drugs, or we don't put it on the same level, because busy gets accolades, it gets awards, it gets medals, it gets trophies, it gets all of these things. And I had a stage of, it's a whole other story, I had a stage of burnout. And I realized there's a whole bunch of things I wasn't allowing myself to feel. And busy was a way to just prevent myself from actually going there to like, Alyce, how do you actually feel about this? And I was scared to look in the mirror of what I would find, because sometimes it doesn't lead to great places, or things that it's like, am I really willing to go there? Because in 2018, Seth asked me point blank, he's like, are you sick of the business? Are you sick of Baltimore? Are you sick of the marriage? And my answer was yes. I had put all of it on the table because I was so crispy. I was so burnt. I was so exhausted. And me choosing to go down and be with those feelings, it's a process. It's not, because we, as entrepreneurs, we want the 1, 2, 3 step. How do I get out of this? I even said that to a counselor once, and she's like, oh yeah, that's not exactly how this works. You didn't get here overnight. This is not, going to be an overnight thing. Are you really willing to go there? And she's like, because she said this really interesting thing. She's like, because you don't have to, right? It's a choice to go into those feelings. But she's like, if you're going to choose to go there, it's going to be hard work. Are you wanting to do it? And she's like, there was no judgment as to whether I did or didn't. But I'm like, I've got to believe that the life on the other side of me being true and honest with how I'm feeling with myself is going to be better. And that's what I clung to. It almost cost us our family. It cost us relationships. It cost us a lot of things. And I can tell you now, having part of that whole experience took us from moving from Baltimore to Austin, which for a residential real estate agent is not something that is typically done, right? But as we were, how do we live this life that we want to design, the perfect life for us, it included moving to Austin. So we're like, okay, we're going to figure this out. And if you ask any one of the 6 of us right now, I guarantee you, ask us independently, every one of us would say we wish we had done it sooner. But it was the mom's got to take care of mom to open up all of these possibilities. Me continuing to push and strive because I'm doing it for everybody else actually wasn't the best path forward. Me being honest and true with what was good for mom actually was good for the family. But you can't always see it in the moment. So that's the busy piece. And that also leads right into the, what was the second one? Was that the
being willing to fully live for your child, not just die for them? Yeah, absolutely.
Before you go into that, I just want to make sure that the listener caught what you're talking about here, as far as like ever feeling like stuck or feeling like you're in the stage of burnout. You're this feeling where like there's no other option, like feeling like I just want to surrender to the world. And especially if you run a business, I mean, like, the business could sometimes be the escape from reality, but then we just bury ourselves in our work to escape these feelings. And I really love your response there, because then you said, well, I have a choice. I have a choice where I could escape this, or I could choose to stay. And it kind of ties into a lot of, we just ran a full mini course on this. We have a full program called Operator to Owner for that reason, is to help people free themselves from their business. And frankly, it's not from your lens of what you just said. It's like, yes, it's a choice, but it's a choice to avoid consequence that's even more greater than the choice of experiencing the temporary pain of those feelings of change, because change is going to happen. But like, how do we navigate through those transitions with grace and with support and with help? So I love that you said that, because a lot of the listeners of the show are going through Operator to Owner with us to help them become a business owner, to free themselves up from the escape. So that way they could actually take the time to let the business run like a machine and actually go experience their feelings. And I just wanted to click on that. So thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful. And sorry to interrupt, but I know you're on the flow. So please go for the fully living.
So if we had stayed in Baltimore, what it would have shifted to is, I'm willing to die for my kids. It's really important that they stay here and finish school where they are. They're really comfortable. It would be selfish of me to want to make this move to Austin. So I'm going to sacrifice, because I'm the mom. I'm going to sacrifice, and I'm just going to stick it out, and I'm going to work really hard, and we're going to have money set aside for college, and I'm just going to power through. Versus, what does fully living mean for mom? Fully living for me was, you know what? We never wanted to live in Baltimore this long. We'd always had a plan to leave, and it had not materialized. And I realized that, if we don't just rip off the Band-Aid and do it now, I don't know, I don't want to wait 10 more years till the last one's gone and then make that move. So that's when we, as a family, started having the conversations. What if we move now? What would that mean? What could that look like? And it was a family decision. And it was a family decision with mom kind of leading the way, like this, we're doing this for mom. And Seth was very supportive. He was sure to let the kids know, like, hey, we're doing this for mom because mom's worth it. And this is something that she really wants. And I full well knew that we could make the move, get the apartment in Austin, and it might not work out, and we turn around and go back. But I was way more okay with that, saying, hey, we tried it for a year. It didn't quite work how we thought, but we tried it. That's fully living. And what happens if you give permission that it could be better than you ever thought? Right? We ended up renting the apartment. COVID happens. We end up buying our dream house out here. And we're like, dang, all 6 of us would say, wish we had done this sooner. So fully living actually allowed the family to fully live too. My sacrificing, thinking, well, I'm willing to sacrifice and die and be the martyr, actually wouldn't have been the best thing for them. So I really think the key is for mom to start tapping into, what does it mean to fully live? Because I think our kids are just desperate to see it.